Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to Magic the Gathering Arena. Today is July 3rd, Friday. Having a bit of an adventure. I had a bit of a power outage, and in the middle of the power outage, I was um, installing a driver, a video card driver, and so then I decided to reinstall that, and that caused some other things. It's a tough sale here, but I guess we're gonna have to get this Tone of Eldraine pack, and we need to, I guess, look and see what packs we're gonna open. Still, Core 2021, I think, is the thing to focus on. So let's see, we've got one Mystic Rare we need to craft from Core 2021. Something that's either been not collected, like which we've collected them all, so then something that we have, I guess, 3 or 4 copies of, 1, 2, or 3 copies of. So I guess the question would be, what do we want to craft? Probably not going to play an 8 mana creature. Let's see. Lose 3 life. Draw a card. I think this discontinuity might be a good one to go with. Generally, I just want to spend a lot of time on it, thinking about it, so that's good enough for me. Let's open this Stone of Eldraine package. So, yeah, cards that we generally probably already have 4 copies of, or close to 4 copies of. So we'll get more wild cards from that pack. And I guess at a certain point the question would become, is it worth 500 gold to buy a pack if you have all the cards? I think the answer might be exactly yes, because if you actually had all the cards, you'd get at least 40, probably at least 60 gems. And 500 for 60 gems is guaranteed, is actually a very good deal. There's this whole renewal season. We'll have to figure out what this is. So we'll talk about that. The general idea was that they were going to do something to adjust the game so that we didn't end up having duplicates that were just not playable from older and non-standard sets. Let's see, profile wise, we still want to play ranked, and we have a Friday night at Magic, and we need to play some white cards at some point too. Alright, so that's where we're going to set. Generally speaking, do I literally have nothing? Why do I have nothing? Let's come back to this idea. During this challenge, we want to give you the community a chance to play and connect with their local game stores, stay at home, and play Friday Night Magic temporarily on Magic Arena. Each Friday, a new special event. This week, Singleton, we cast a 60-card standard decks are limited to 1 copy of any card other than basic lands. Okay. So, what was the deck that I was playing before that would have been even slightly close to that? I guess nothing. Yeah, I don't know why that's the case, but we'll see. Well, then I guess the easiest thing to do is just pick whites and start going down the list. That was like 32 cards, so that's not what we're gonna do. Let's try something different here. It's 32 cards because they threw in a bunch of land to start with. Okay, let's see if we can type in dog. And let's see what we can do as far as a dog deck. Seems like you'd have to play a full black, white, red deck if you're gonna play this way. Green. Interesting. Okay. So we're gonna play all dogs. Sacrifice this. Target creature gains indestructible. Another target creature gains indestructible. Dog with lifelink and haste. Vigilance. +1/+1. Let's see. Yeah, there's no way this is gonna actually work. This is a cat. Red, white, and green would be the right move. Let's try cats now. Let's see. That just has cat in the name in the form of replicator. Cat, 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 cat. Are cat warriors and cat soldiers all the same thing? Or do they not count? 5 more cards. Apparently I cannot put this in the deck for some reason. This is a catacomb crocodile. I think a lot of things have cat in the name that aren't actually cats. Probably should have typed in cat spacebar, enter, and then that'll help narrow it down. That card must just not be allowed. Cat spacebar does not do anything, though. I feel like I'm probably doing something incredibly stupid to the point where I won't even be able to win at this rate. But it does seem like a fun attempt. Let's see. Says companion, no. Although, why not? Let's see, what is this one's called? Kahira the Orpha Guard. That'll make it easier. Okay. So that gets us to 81. We have 4 blues. Let's look at our blues first. This is a replication thing. We don't need that. This is an elemental cat. This is an elemental cat. This is not a cat card. Okay, then that leaves us with 7 blacks as cards, which are things. So there's no more reason to filter that way. Let's see. That's not a cat. This is a beast card. That's a cat. That's a cat. That's not a cat. That's not a cat. Dog, cat. Dog, cat, 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 cat. See, they certainly made it seem like this was a potential solution that you could do, where you could actually just play a bunch of cats and dogs in a deck, and in some form or some standard form of playing Magic, you actually could have a decent deck. I think we're fairly quickly going to realize that that is absolutely not the case. And there is really not a easy solution that this is going to work with. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. And this really would only work for me at the moment because of the fact that I can only have 1 copy of everything. Otherwise, I would totally not have enough cards. Although, if I could have 4 copies of some of these things, that would make sense. The deck must fulfill the following condition. Each creature in the card must be a cat, elemental, dinosaur, beast card, which means get rid of that. Okay. And then we need to just see basic lands. What else am I trying to filter so that I can put some basic lands in this deck? Basic lands won't have cat in the name. Okay, easy enough to do. Here's the problem. I want to play these colors and these cards, and I can't even mark them as favorites. So planes, add that, remove that. Cards that are going to play planes, white cards are going to be very high. Next, it's going to be half as many green cards. So forests. Next. Man. Yeah. A real problem when looking at that. Then next we would have red cards. So mountains. Next. And then it is going to become a question about, do I want to get rid of the 2 blues or the 5 black cards? Let's see. Black card, black card. Think we could get rid of those 2 fairly easily. And then blue, white, white, green. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Blue, white. Let's see, how are we doing with black cards? We're gonna get rid of some heavy hitters if we get rid of that, but probably, if we have even a chance of winning, we probably need to decide to do it that way. Okay. I believe at that point, that leaves us with red, white, and green. So 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. Start balancing this out a little bit more. That's at 65 cards. Hmm. 25 cards, 31 cards. Well, this is going to be questionable, to say the least. Let's see. I'm gonna give it a name. Let's see if we can play this. Cats and dogs. That's a lot of setup for an experiment. And of course, if I get victories, more than likely I'll get victories just because it's a quick disconnector. I get lucky, and in getting those victories, I'm only going to get a small reward of a couple of cards at most. Let's see, mulligan. And start. So we have moderately few games that have come out, and we have news that has come out, but I will say that the vast majority of the video game news is just continuation stories of the Me Too accusations, this next round of Me Too accusations. Which I don't want to get into a huge rant about it, but there is something definitely wrong with the actual Me Too organization, in the fact that they are actively endorsing and probably promoting, putting out these accusations on Twitter in public, instead of, say, having a team of lawyers ready to go to file charges or civil court cases against people, or go to the news, as far as for as bad as mainstream news media is these days, at the very least they kind of do their research and vet their sources a little bit, particularly when you're making sexual assault accusations and the like. So it does kind of come off in this weird way of, oh, we're putting our accusations on Twitter because nobody else would otherwise publish these claims. Now, there might very well be, I'm totally willing to believe, many instances where rich and powerful people do manage to kill stories. I believe the Bill Cosby situation was very much that, in which he would consistently and very successfully manage to kill stories of accusations of what was Bill Cosby was doing. Or so, yeah. Whenever you cast a spell that targets those creatures, get +1 until the end of the turn. The dogs we control get +1/+1. This one has menace, so I'd have to block it with 2 things. But yeah, I feel like an organization like that would just would want to be extremely concerned about maintaining, creating, and always having as much credibility as possible. So vetting the stories, being very much the person in charge of who can use the hashtag #MeToo on Twitter and who can put out those stories and who's going to get promoted, versus this, hey, let's create this false solidarity on Twitter with people you don't even know, just dogpiling and bandwagging onto a witch hunt, or what could be a witch hunt in some cases. So yeah, there's definitely some organizational problems there. But then there's also organizational problems clearly inside of most mainstream AAA video game developers. So neither side here seems like they have clean hands. And as a customer, at a certain point, if you allow a story to just become exhausting, as if you allow enough mud slinging to happen where it's just thrown against the walls in such a way that everybody ends up dirty, then people just tune out. That's been a trick in politics for a very long time. It's just, if you've got dirt on if somebody's got dirt on you, you just make accusations and get dirt on them, and then you keep going back and forth until people are just exhausted mentally and tuned out. Which is also a very good argument that if you were the person in charge of the Me Too organization, you would have a schedule, you would have a plan that once a week one person comes out with their story and it is taken seriously and talked about and is the only story, instead of what happens where feels like 5 or 6 Me Too accusations around video game related people, but I can't name any of the people, really. I can't name too many of the companies. It really just has caused confusion. And I don't think 100% of that is just because I want to mentally tune out. But particularly in the video game world, that's the average player in a nutshell. Is that, yeah, average video game players want to tune out mentally, and from their problems and from the real world and the messiness of the real world. To use an SJW phrase, video games for a lot of people are their safe space. So to have people intentionally or unintentionally encroach on your safe space of playing video games, people are not going to be happy about that. +1/+1 till the end of the turn. Okay. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Remedy, which looks like it is a first-person puzzle game of some sort. Might be a little bit asset flippy, but it looks kind of unique enough, at least on the video while I was watching it. It's $9.99, English full audio. To the follow list we go. I'm just gonna try and burn through all this news, because there definitely isn't a lot of it, and this could be a short stream if we do everything right, or it's just going to end up being an average stream. Gamatsu has an article here. Root Film demo launches July 4th for PS4 and July 9th for Switch in Japan. Root Film has been getting a decent amount of hype, and it probably isn't too far from coming out. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article. Professor Layton in the Lost Future is coming to iOS and Android. It was first released on the DS in 2008, so it's like a 12-year-old game. There probably won't be another situation like this in 10 or 20 years. I don't think we will start to see Switch games 20 years from now coming to cell phones, but who knows, that's such a long time. I wouldn't be surprised if cell phones do effectively become the standard Nintendo Switch equivalent. So I guess that is possible. I haven't played any of the Professor Layton games. I would like to play them. I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of boring, considering how old it is. Gamatsu has an article. Otomate new title party live stream set for July 7th. New Otome visual novels are incoming. So it seems like Japan is still trying to put out announcements and games when they probably should be acting as carefully as everyone else, with the pandemic still definitely on and happening. This was a little shocking. The Initial D arcade game special live event is set for July 10th. I didn't realize that anybody was still doing anything with Initial D. I always felt like that racing anime was only really popular in the West for people watching it on Toonami, and that people in Japan found it very odd. I guess it's owned by Sega, so they could very well just be making a racing game and putting Initial D as the title, which isn't a bad idea in any way. It's a battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. 1/1 creature here. So I could attack and sacrifice this guy and give him indestructible until the end of the turn. I don't think I'd want to do that right now. Gamatsu has an article here. DigiFest 2020 online set for August 1st. DigiNavi and Digimon News Navigation live stream set for July 7th. So a lot of Digimon focused announcements. I wouldn't be surprised if they announced 1 or 2 new games on top of the 1 or 2 Digimon games that probably are in development or soon to be released at the moment. TechRaptor has an article. Ubisoft's The Settlers delayed until further notice. Settlers apparently was going to be some kind of like Sims type real-time strategy game by the looks of it. Doesn't look particularly special, honestly. Age of Empires type clone. By the way, I finally fixed the name not showing up on my ad blocking and went through and tweaked what elements on TechRaptor. So I spent that extra effort. TechRaptor has an article. It was very predictable that this was going to happen, but the UK House of Lords calls for an immediate loot box gambling reclassification. Yeah, there definitely wasn't anything in the talk and the speeches that were given by the likes of EA and other video game companies that heavily rely on loot boxes that would have convinced them to not classify. Yeah, I don't see any way that they would have not ended up classifying it as a form of gambling. That was unlikely to happen. This one looks like it has flying, but it doesn't. So now I have trample and lifelink, which is nice. The UK alone, particularly after Brexit, classifying loot boxes as gambling is just going to be another pin and domino to knock down to eventually convince video game companies to not have loot boxes in their games, which they had already fairly spent a lot of effort to not have loot boxes in their games going forward. And instead there is now a game, the next, I believe, NBA 2K game, in fact, I believe that is now going to be a $70 game. And yeah, nobody's happy about that, I'm sure. The 2 other creatures you control. Okay. That one. And let's see. That one. If I could put this back in my hand, that would be interesting. But I can't. I don't have anything that would bring. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called King of Crabs, which seems like it is crabs fighting each other. And it's kind of an interesting idea by the looks of it. I don't know how well it really is going to play or how fun this would be for more than 5 minutes. It's a free-to-play game with in-app purchases, oddly. So, that's a strange choice. Let's go ahead and block this. And block this. Well, this guy would have synergized nicely. Let's see. Is there a good reason to... Oh man, I killed the card that was giving me trample. That was dumb. That was real dumb. Next we have a game on Steam called Mad Guns, which looks like it's probably an asset flip shooter game. Yep. Free to play, online PvP, in-app purchases. We are going to talk about a story where Congregate is basically shutting down and they're not going to be accepting any more games submissions, which does open this door to a fairly large chance of failure. Well, a fairly large chance of a lot more garbage, low effort games showing up on Steam. Although, in fairness, if somebody was submitting a game to Congregate, they probably weren't paying anything, and Steam Direct is still $100, so that might act as a small barrier of entry. I don't think it will act as much of a barrier of entry, but still some small barrier. And it might also eventually cause Valve to just say, hey, let's curate the submissions a little bit more so that we're not just allowing everything that gives us $100. If my theory that they're going to get rid of the marketplace is true, that is an inherent indication that Valve might not be so interested in getting the small pennies from people. In the marketplace, as example, they were getting pennies on every transaction, but probably millions of transactions a month. But if they're not interested in that anymore, then they may not be interested particularly in getting $100 off of a Steam Direct listing. Whenever this creature mutates, other creatures you control get X plus X till the end of the turn, where X is the number of times this creature is mutated. Might fucking mutate this. Put it over. Must attack Fable. Must attack Fable. Next we have on Steam the VR Nisage 3 Jean Wentz art exhibit, which doesn't seem like it's an amazingly good way to depict art, but the art itself looks fine, just floating in the middle of the air. So I guess I'll put it on the fall list. It's weird to be early access for a free-to-play game, though. That they're not trying to get any money from it at all. Also feels like some of these John Wentz art exhibits are just the same thing painted multiple times and potentially unfinished to a layman's eye. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. Next we have a game on Steam called Tierguard Trial of Honor, which I think is a VR archery game. It looks a lot like a lot of the VR archery games. $9.89 is fairly cheap. I'll put it on the fall list and see what the reviews are. but then it really won't ever leave the fall list because I'll almost certainly never get VR. Next we have a game on Steam that's just a bunch of Asian characters. Looks like Japanese. And by the looks of it, it looks like this is some kind of card-based battle game. But then it's tagged real-time strategy and tower defense. And it does just seem like it's all over the place. Feels a little bit like a Chinese game. But it's Japanese, so okay. Looks like we've seen one of the rare low-effort Japanese games. Must attack if able. I have no problem with that. Next we have a game on Steam that looks more like it might be a Chinese game. It's tagged as a puzzle trivia word game. Yeah, it does look like it's kind of a cell phone style puzzle escape the room type game. English is not supported, 99 cents, Chinese only. Yep. Next we have a game that came out called Paper Dolls 2, and I actually went to the Steam curator page, so I've already put this one on the follow list. This could be an interesting horror Asian game, or it could just be a low effort asset flip horror game. They tend to look very pretty anyways. These cutscenes that are being shown though definitely seem like there's some polish there. And I think at a certain level, yeah, this is rated very positively so far. This is English and Chinese. At a certain level, this may just be the new genre as far as the long-running but often ignored in the West Asian horror games like Fatal Frame and such. So we may very well just have to eventually learn that these kinds of games are going to come out on a fairly frequent basis, and I'm going to have to just consider them as their own thing instead of considering them as an extension of low effort Western horror games, which we haven't even seen a lot of those in the past couple of weeks. Next we have a game on Steam called Haramagia, which looks like it's a weird platformer, but it's not tagged as a platformer, it's tagged as an adventure RPG. It looks weird though, and weird is sometimes good. And I'd say this is very possibly something that could be very interesting. 89 cents, English and Russian. I can't believe I actually won there, but I did somehow. And so we get I think a gold card. Let's see if we can win again. Gamatsu has Genshin Impact a day in Mondstadt music sample video. This is most interesting to me in the fact that it is a music sample video. So they're highlighting the music. That's something you'd almost never see in a Western hype cycle at all, is the idea of the music being interesting. And in fact, I was just thinking the other day, like most movies and TV shows and such are fairly horrible at actually putting out anything that is interesting as far as the soundtrack and the music. You often just get pop music that is so familiar it just becomes background noise more than something that elevates a scene. And maybe some of that just falls straight under opinion, but it does definitely figure out to be that way. And yeah, I was thinking about how the music is in the Hannibal TV series on Netflix, which that music and those visuals, every single part seems to have been well thought out. In fact, I went back and watched the first episode after having just watched the entirety of the series, and there's literally hints at the beginning of the first episode for things that don't get revealed until the very end of the series. It's like that they make comments and ideas that had obviously been planned out. Now, in all fairness, the Hannibal TV series is based off the Hannibal Lecter series of books and the Red Dawn book, Silence of the Lambs, and the movies that had already existed, so there's a lot of material you could have referenced even to begin with without having planned out much. I also, since I was wasting time on Netflix, watched the Cardcaptor Sakura first couple of episodes dubbed with the newer dub, and boy is that dub weird. Like, you're in a weird position there. It's a TVY cartoon for little kids, and probably it's targeted to little girls more than most cartoon shows would be, since it's a female protagonist. But to make a new dub, because the first version of Cardcaptor Sakura was adapted, I guess is the best way to say it, in such a weird way for 4 kids in the West, that they moved episodes around, they edited out scenes, they edited out entire plots and plot points. They removed all of the crushes and romances. They tried to make it seem like it was an action show way more than it actually is. They changed the name of characters. You just couldn't have used that little dub. You would have had to start over from scratch. So that's what they did. But then they kind of seemingly didn't want to make a dub a second time in the first place. So they seem to be probably justifiably terrified in making any kind of localization changes, since people were already pissed at that first dub. And so they seemingly just decided to change nothing, do as literal a translation as possible, and hire relatively what it sounded like bad voice actors, because in the new English dub, the main characters just don't sound right. They don't sound like a little girl that's in elementary school voicing the lines. Sakura's best friend, Tomo, I believe her name is Tomo, or something close to that. Like, she sounds completely off. And it's just really, really bad compared to listening to the original Japanese voice actors, as far as just what they sound like and how realistic the characters sound like. But even more confusingly, they don't pronounce words right. For decades in Cardcaptor Sakura, people have said in the English dubs, and people in the West who speak English have said the cards that she was collecting are Clow cards. Clow spelled C-L-O-W. I don't know how in Japanese you would pronounce that word, because I don't recall there ever being an O-W or an ow sound, anything like that in Japanese. So, but for decades now, they've been called Clow cards. If you look at any review, if you ask anybody that's been known about it, it's been Clow. So, what do they call them in the first episode? They call them Clo cards. as in glow, but with a C. Just out of nowhere. The guardian of the Clo cards in this dub is not Karibos or Kerberos, but a weird pronunciation. I don't even remember what it was now. They're just not pronouncing things right, which is weird because this dub would be for little kids. You would want them to be able to spell Kerberos, Kerberos or Karibos correctly. I think I might actually have that word wrong, or there might be a couple different words. I've always in my head thought it was Karibos, and it being kind of a Greek Latin word, that does make sense in my head that it would be os at the end. Kerberos makes some sense too. But also you're definitely in a weird position, because if you're going to be a true anime fan and you're not a little kid, you're definitely not going to watch the dub, and they didn't dub the intro or outro of the songs or change any of the credits, so it is an odd little sandwich where you get the very recognizable and fun intro and outro of Cardcaptor Sakura in Japanese with Japanese writing on the Japanese intro and outro, but then you have the English dub in the middle, and at the end of the outro song there is a extra segment and then a teaser for the next episode, and Netflix is not programmed right to show the teaser. It's telling you to skip the credits, and if you skip the credits you'll miss the extra segment, which you would want to miss because that's new content, or the teaser for the next episode, because even that is really new content. It's new dialogue talking about what's going to happen in the next episode. So yeah, I don't know. I think you probably just would, as a parent, if you're an anime fan, if you have fond memories of Cardcaptor Sakura, you would just have to have your kid watch it dubbed and grin and bear it and hope that they can enjoy it. It's slightly less violent, slightly less aggressive show. It's kind of even simplistic and boring, being for little kids. But compare that to like Power Rangers or something like that. It's not going to just be a guaranteed violent experience. And then I imagine what you would want to do is hope that they could establish some fandom of it now, forget about it, and then a few years later, if they were to go down the route of being a fan of anime and watching anime in its original language, you could bring it back and say, hey, let's rewatch this old series, but now let's watch it with the original voice acting, because kids would definitely not be willing to read. And that's really what it would boil down to, is are you going to create that barrier of enjoyment by being stuck up and saying, no, you have to watch all of Cardcaptor Sakura in its original language to really be a true fan and to really enjoy it. And it's not like the new dub is that terrible. And it's not like a kid would know the difference. But if you aren't a kid, or if there's just not a kid in the room while you're watching it, then I would highly suggest instead having watching it in its original language. moving on back to video games, that Genshin Impact music sample video, it was really just characters sitting at this fountain as far as the visuals, and I imagine as far as the audio was playing, it was playing music. And I went off on a bit of a tangent there. Next game we have on Steam is Scary Hospital Horror Game, which looks like an asset flip horror game. It would be very hard to justify playing a game that looks like this. Looks like a 10-year-old game, but it's brand new. Also, the name is incredibly generic, which makes me assume the game is not good. XX mutated. Alright, well, let's do this. Mutate on this, because then we'll get vigilance. And then over. Gematsu has an article here. Pokemon Twilight Wings Limited Anime Series Episode 6 Moonlight. Tommy asks Alistair for help. I have no idea what this is at all, but apparently there was a side Pokemon story that I have just not heard about, and apparently you can just click on links to watch all of these episodes. It seems like it's kind of a Halloween themed miniseries. Ghost type gym leader Alistair. I guess maybe this is Alistair. Interesting. It definitely says something, though, about the fact that there could be an entire Pokemon mini-series that occurs, and it's not huge news anymore, where it definitely would have been huge news back in the heyday of Pokemon fandom. But now I guess the fandom eventually had to die down, and it has died down to a more reasonable level. Let's see. Oh, that sucked. And I guess I couldn't sacrifice anything to give him indestructible. Evo was already kind of having trouble with having to do their event online, and there being a fighting game tournament series. A lot of people didn't want to have a tournament where there would be internet connection issues, and there was a lot of people that didn't want to participate. And now they've been given a very good reason to basically stop Evo from happening this year. They put out this picture on Twitter. Serious allegations were recently made public on Twitter. We have made the first of a series of important decisions regarding the future of our company effective immediately. Joey Kuehler will no longer be involved with Evo in any capacity. We're currently working towards his complete separation from the company and have relieved him of all responsibilities. Going forward, Tony Cannon will act as CEO. In this position, he will take a leadership role in prioritizing great accountability across Evo, and both internally and at our events. Progress does not happen overnight. Blah 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 blah. As a result, we are canceling Evo Online and will work on issuing refunds to all players who chose to purchase a badge. We'll donate the equivalent proceeds to Project Hope. Don't know what the accusations are at this point. Kind of tired of these accusations, and so and see, this is the problem with like the Papa John's event, where undeniably Papa John did say something that people could take offense to, but he has made a very convincing argument that he was literally set up to say that thing and goaded into saying that thing, and that he has tapes of them literally saying, you have to say the word, we need you to say the word, which is hardly like inducement to self-incrimination, effectively. Is the narrative that he is spinning fairly effectively, and his claim is that this was done intentionally by other people who owned shares in Papa John's, who wanted to take over control of Papa John's. I could easily put on my conspiracy hat and believe that Tony Cannon, or those people who wanted to support Tony Cannon, literally just made up accusations against Joey Kuehler to get rid of him and put someone else in charge, without knowing any more details, which is my fault, and I don't want to bother to find any more details. But yeah, this is the whole problem. In a nutshell, is that it's just so exhausting and repulsive, these accusations and trials without jury, these trials by witch hunt, by popular opinion, or not even popular opinion. Most people on Twitter and most people involved with Evo probably don't know the story, probably don't care one bit. I mean, it has just become so incredibly easy for someone to make an accusation and be believed with literally no real evidence. It's just demoralizing in my part, to me. But yeah, Evo was probably going to get canceled anyways, so let me just throw that out there as part of the opinion. Is that nobody was happy with Evo Online as it was, and in the same way, almost everything else is going to get canceled because of the pandemic anyways. And then there is also a question that I would like to hear answers. I'd like to hear solutions from everybody instead of just these half actions of, we're going to accuse someone and then that one person is going to be ruined and canceled. What stops the next person for not being as bad, if not worse, from the previous person? What's this new system? What's this new implementation? Like, how is anybody protected by just shuffling the chairs on the Titanic? Moving on, Major Nelson this Friday is back to putting out some announcements. So we have Alpha Dea Genesis is now available for Xbox One and Windows 10. So, let's see. Should I even bother to block? Nope. Not going to. Clash Force is now available for Xbox One. That's a $3.99 game. I definitely feel like there was one day where I specifically didn't get 15 wins. I'm not sure I even got to 10 wins. But otherwise, I think I'm doing fairly well as far as getting as much experience as possible. This is probably a bad hand to start with. Well, can't mulligan again. I could, but it wouldn't be a smart move. Major Nelson has a thing. The Great Perhaps is now available for digital pre-order and pre-download on Xbox One. This is an interesting little icon, but it's probably a very simplistic game since I haven't heard anything about it. Gamatsu has the article covering EVO's cancellation. Let's see if there's anything new. A number of companies that were going to participate had already said they weren't going to participate. Bandai, Capcom, Main 6, and NetherRealm Studios. Let's see. I guess we have a full confession in this scenario, so I guess Cellular was guilty. Although, really, at a certain point, I don't know if you can even trust a direct confession from someone who is being fired from a high position in the company, because it very well may be that the company has such just undue force upon them, or that they have convinced him or advised him to just admit guilt, put out an apology, and then we'll give you some golden parachute in that, or even if they don't give a golden parachute of some sort, they convince him that that would be the best way for him to, at some point in the future, return to a level of success and a level of career. So the statement here, the only guess you have to take it at face value, is I'm sorry. Many people will argue never apologize, because I've never yet seen anybody actually accomplish anything with apologizing, because nobody ever accepts it. I never meant to hurt anyone. I was young and reckless and did things I'm not proud of. I've been growing and maturing over the past 20 years. So was this an accusation from 20 years ago that ruined somebody's career? But that doesn't excuse anything. All I have been trying to do is become a better person. Once again, I'm truly sorry. End quote. Although the end quote mark is not here in Gamatsu's way of depicting that. Yeah, there is definitely a reason why politicians never admit fault and never apologize. It never works. With perhaps the one exception that I've only seen it sort of be useful is in Bar Rescue, where in Bar Rescue, John Taffer, the host, is trying to basically mentally break down the people and break their bad habits and break their established bad attitudes. And so if he sees someone do something really, really bad, that he will tell them to apologize to the person that they've done something really bad to that person. But I don't know if him telling them to apologize really even comes from a genuine desire to make a person feel remorseful or change their actions, or if it isn't just a tactic that he uses to see if people will humble up, as John Taffer calls it, and say they're sorry to at least outwardly show that they're wrong. And certainly in running a bar, if you're a manager or something, you probably do need to be able and capable of apologizing when you don't really mean it to customers all the time. So there's an actual value in being a manager of a bar or a host of a bar and being able to apologize. But politicians, people in almost any other job, not really needed to. Like, a lot of customer service people are trained to say they're sorry, but they don't mean it, and everybody on the phone knows they don't mean it. There is just at least some stats out there that seem to indicate that there is some small group of people that still respond to apologies. Why can I not play that? Interesting. I have the mana to mutate. I don't have the mana to do something else. Interesting. See, moving on, Gamatsu has an article, Taiko no Tatsujin, drum and fun shipments and digital sales top 1 million. This is the drumming game that has been on several consoles. Generally, I would assume it was mostly Nintendo consoles. It doesn't typically come to the West with any real fanfare. It's coming out, it first launched on the Switch July 2018 in Japan, and worldwide in 2018 in November. So apparently you can get it. It is also a game that probably would benefit from a little bit more localization than they could ever afford to actually give it. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article for the PS4. Ginga Force for the PS4 is now available in Japan. I have no idea what this is. It has a Steam page. Looks like it's a shoot 'em up game. Yep, it's a shoot 'em up game. Although it looks like it might be a widescreen shoot 'em up game. Let's see what the reviews on Steam look like. So, nope, it's not out yet. Well, a widescreen shoot 'em up game is definitely a step forward in the right direction compared to many other shoot 'em ups that are still very much not widescreen. Should have probably attacked. See, next we have a game on Steam called Sporadic Spire, which looks like a tower defense, low effort asset flip game for $4.24, English only. TechRaptor has the same article. Capcom, NetherRealms, and Bandai pull out of Evo 2020. There definitely were arguments made. I don't know if any of them were ever made seriously or taken seriously, but there definitely were arguments made that once the feminist movement, the first wave feminist movement or the second wave feminist movement happened, and women were being allowed to work side by side men in the same types of jobs in the same places, there definitely were arguments being made that accusations of sexual misconduct would rise so high that the men who owned all the companies would just refuse to hire women out of fear of being accused. And that is a danger, certainly, in this cancel culture. Like, if I was to open a business, it's something that would have to cross my mind. It would definitely be something I would have to think about, is that, do I want to hire someone who is female that it might accuse me of something, or can I go a slightly safer path and hire someone who's male? Do I want to hire a single person, or do I want to only hire married women? That was definitely the thing. And now there's equal opportunity laws, and that you're not supposed to violate, that prevent you legally from excluding people based on marriage status or gender. But that does not really stop anybody. It's a court civil case that is impossible to prove. So any feminist movement, if #MeToo is to be believed as actually a feminist movement, has to be extremely careful to not create a negative outcome in their efforts to create a positive outcome. And the same is true for the Black Lives Matter movement. Like, if the Black Lives Matter movement was just actively rioting and burning down buildings and things like that, instead of being a peaceful protest organization, for everything I've seen at least, then yeah, it would definitely lose a lot of support and easily just be classified as a group of terrorists or rebels, or whatever you want to call them, a group of violent thugs. So you don't want to you want to get people on your side. I don't know how the #MeToo movement is accomplishing that. I don't think it is. I don't think it's actively trying to bring in anybody. I don't think it's trying to throw out even a token-esque not all men. Here's a man that was an ally. Here's a man that supported me. Anyways, yeah, I keep going in circles. It really sucks when that's the only story. It's getting down to like the CNN levels of, you turn on CNN and it's just all about Trump. And it's like, alright, I've had enough of Trump. I've had enough hearing about Trump for, let me just ignore it till the election happens. Do I want to play a 2-2? Do I want to play this? Or do I want to play this? Moving on, we have a game on Steam here that's just a bunch of Asian characters. It looks like it's some kind of Stardew Valley clone with a ninja. It looks like it's kind of a ugly Chinese game, for lack of a better description. Early access, $1.79, Chinese only. It looks very NES-like, and if the video showed actual gameplay and actual monsters instead of just kind of walking around, I might be more willing to believe that there actually is some game there. But no, it's not really showing any of that. wanted to show off YouTube Gaming's most recent tweeting habits. It's kind of interesting now that I look at it that they have a picture of the NES or NES Mini, I guess, and Xbox 360 controllers. It's weird for YouTube Gaming to try to encourage anybody to play any Nintendo games on YouTube, considering how Nintendo basically doesn't want anybody streaming here. But they're doing some kind of pathetic tweets here. Describe your favorite game in 4 words, make it creative. And they've got 1,000.1 comments off of that. Otherwise, there's kind of nothing that they're saying that's important. They don't seem to be kind of daily promoting people or streamers, which is the one thing that if you're a YouTube content creator you would want, is that they would just promote out some streamers or some top trending videos. They seem to be fairly quiet, and when they do post it seems to be not really a lot to say. Like every day, if they put out a top trending video game videos, up to 2. Oh, I shouldn't have played that, should I? But yeah, YouTube Gaming is kind of just a failed effort at this point. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. Westworld creators are taking aim at a Fallout in an upcoming Amazon Studios series. Well, Fallout's kind of sucked in the past couple of releases. That's gonna hurt it. But there's some possibility there. Like, the story in the Fallout series isn't anywhere as bad as some of the other stories in other games. So I could definitely see the idea of telling a story of a character in a Fallout wasteland, doing something along the lines of the mainline story events of New Vegas or Fallout 3 or even Fallout 4, although Fallout 4's story wasn't particularly great. They might try to do a Game of Thrones type thing with it and establish a much bigger world with lots of characters. It wouldn't be too crazy to have multiple cities and multiple groups of people. I guess that would kind of work. Although I don't know how many more eyes you would get on your show calling it Fallout. Anyways, I don't know how many Fallout players are going to decide to go watch that show compared to just making a post-apocalyptic series. I wouldn't be surprised if the Fallout series is actually just a Mad Max script that they are trying to reuse. Yeah, in a weird way, Fallout's not that unique. In lots of other ways it is unique, but in some ways it kind of isn't. It is just your standard. There are ghouls instead of zombies. There are mutant creatures, and then there's your standard marauders. Moving on, OpenCritic has an article. Ubisoft has announced a new Battle Royale title called Hyperscape. Okay. Battle Royales are not dead yet, by the looks of it. And I imagine that will be the case for a couple more years. Twitch support is still having trouble. 23 hours ago, they were aware of issues with view counts displaying incorrectly. So they resolved the issue 21 hours ago. They really should go back and delete those tweets. Like, there's no reason to keep them on your stream and your feed. In all fairness, there might be a Steam support or an Xbox support or even a PlayStation support Twitter that I just don't follow. So, but it does seem like Twitch is, from my perspective, the one that always has trouble and always brings trouble to people's attention. More than they probably should if they were smart. This has vigilance. Darn it. Alright, he's going to take his time. Game Sutra has an article. COVID-19 and pivot towards game development led to layoffs at Congregate. Congregate has reportedly laid off a sizable portion of its staff. And yeah. Flash games, I think, are fairly prevalent on Congregate. I wouldn't be surprised if Congregate is all Flash games. And as such, they are, I could see an argument that it's just going to be increasingly difficult to have Flash games on a website where Flash is not being supported. Next, we have a game on Steam called Arctic Anxiety, which looks like it is a VR game where you crash in the Arctic. Kind of looks like a Raft clone. Is there any reason why I would want to play a Raft clone when Raft now is a lot further towards being a finalized product? This is $1.79 English only. I thought this was going to be VR, but it isn't. No, I couldn't imagine playing a Raft clone. If I'm going to play anything, I'll play Raft. Let's see. Do I want to do anything here? If he can do 4 damage. See. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Quote, changes start today, says Ubisoft CEO after years of allegations arise. I don't want to get back into another rant, but years of allegations as a phrase, like, it doesn't, to my understanding, feel like there's been years of allegations. It feels like there has been allegations that go back years are being made. There's a big difference there, because if it is the scenario that you're making, exaggerated or false allegations, of course you're going to go back as far possible as can be. I mean, that's just how that's going to work. So allegations going back years, allegations that go back years, allegations of things that happened years ago, very different than Ubisoft has just had years and years of allegations put out there. Which we would have heard stories. I swear we would have heard stories before this point about Ubisoft when they were doing all of that fighting against Viacom. Like, there would have been a lot more said. And see, I don't know if I want to try to spend the time to change the deck in any way, or is there some little change we could do? Getting cards somehow. Let's see. Could probably get rid of that. Probably get rid of that. Probably get rid of that. Then 1, 2, 3 lands. Then maybe that will help a little bit. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. Paradox Interactive acquires Plarion Game Studio to help with its mobile push. Okay. Paradox Interactive is a company I recognize as a name. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what they've made, but I know that they've made something or published something of some importance. Gamma Sutra has a blog here, painting the scene with sound, 4 tips for amazing audio design, which, okay. There definitely was a lot of audio design in The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, but I kind of have this feeling that audio design nowadays is less emphasized or cared about, as it is just all about graphics, ray tracing graphics, hair effects graphics, things like that. And if we weren't in a situation where graphics were so overemphasized, I do think there would probably be a little bit more focus on audio and improvement on it. Now, on the other hand, I don't think most people care about audio anywhere as much as they care about graphics, because plenty of people will buy big TVs if they're cheap enough. A lot fewer people will buy a surround sound system. See, moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Congregate no longer accepting new games and is closing its social functions. Even in this collection of images from games from Congregate, unless this is Darkest Dungeon, I don't recognize any of these games. Major changes at the Flash Gaming site. Yeah, it is a Flash Gaming site only. Okay. So yeah. Congregate effectively dead because Flash is effectively dead, even though there's probably several ways you could continue to have Flash work just in sandbox server modes and then run them through the websites like a website emulator. That'd be my desired solution there. Yeah, there actually is a strategy here. It's putting tokens on that one creature. If I can get one more land, I can play this. Wow. I'll be darned. There actually is a strategy to this. So, if you were playing a commander deck with this and you could get this on the field always, you could play a whole bunch of things. Right, trample. Haste or +1/+1 counter. Okay, attack with this one. Attack with this one. Attack with this one. And attack with this one. Next we have a game on Steam called Prepare, which looks like a prepper game and a low effort asset flip first person shooter. It's early access for $9.49, English allegedly full audio. So there is a Cats and Dogs commander deck to be made, but this Friday Night Magic style of gameplay, well, I don't know what you would even call this, really. I don't even know the style that we're playing. It doesn't really work. Next we have a game on Steam called Juicy Memory Card, which looks like it's just memory cards with some weird horror animation of some sort also being included. It's tagging as a hidden object game, which I would disagree with that. It's 50 cents. It's been a long time since we've seen anything come out brand new and already be down to 50 cents. It's English and Russian. Wonder if that means that the Russian troll game developers are running a little low on money or realize that they're not making anywhere as much sales as that they would like to. Cyan, the creators of Myst, retweeted Mysterium Convention, which apparently they've opened registration for an online event for Myst fans. I would have to definitely question being a Myst fan, though. Like, I am a Myst fan, but my point there is being such a super fan that I would go to a convention just because I liked the Myst series is a little too much. I'm barely finding enough enjoyment to play all of the Myst games a second time. And there definitely are some problems if you think about how the experience originally would have been for playing Myst without any walkthroughs or access to the internet or any kind of strategy guides. Most people probably would have had a fairly frustrating experience. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Darkest Dungeon board game is coming from Mythic Games, which would be a decent argument and excuse to decide to go and play Darkest Dungeon. Finally catch up and play it. Let's see. Trample cannon. 1 minute's counter. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Carto and Haven PS4 releases revealed as PlayStation Indies. This looks interesting, but you got a fairly different animation style here, so I assume this might be 2 games when I think about it. This might be 1 game and this might be a completely different game. I was thinking maybe they're the same thing. They're 2 super chill exploration games apparently. So, looks like a humble game where you're gonna wander around playing kind of an adventure. And then Haven is more of a 3D wander around RPG game by the looks of it. Okay. Let's see. This guy's just gonna keep working me. Yeah, for this deck to really win, I need some spells. I would need to step out and have some spells that would accomplish something. Like that will help a little bit, but not help enough. NIS America on Twitter mentions that their game, where is it? Spy? What's the name of it? They must have retweeted somebody else. Assault Spy, yeah. Assault Spy has a major patch update and it's 40% off and until July 9th. This is a game that caught my eye but never got any coverage at all. It looked like it would be a fairly interesting experience. Okay, that. And what else do we want to do? Just let that happen. Okay. Have it. If I'm gonna win, it's gonna be this way, which means I'm not gonna win. Yeah, might as well do no blocks. And certainly you run into a problem here where this is just really boring. This is a 60 card standard deck where you're limited to 1 copy of any card other than basic lands. So it doesn't even really have a title by the looks of it. We've got another orb. We'll just take this. Although I probably should be fairly careful and just go get all the black skins, because I'm almost certainly going to play black cards more than anything else. You can see how it's frustrating, you can see how it's boring, you can see how this is not a good experience in general. And then my only other options are to try to play Alpha Blood version 1.2 now on ranked to get up in ranked, or not play it on ranked in the hopes of getting victories, which in my experience trying to not play it on ranked for the past couple days, I've not actually gotten any quicker victories. It's just been kind of a hassle. I've been moving some cards in and out of this deck, trying to ensure that I have enough things to maintain my life and actually get to the point where I can play Bolas Citadel, or possibly even get a quick victory. Effectively trying to make the deck more robust for early game, mid game, and late game strategy. Czech Raptor has an article: a hacking platformer called Recompiler is coming to the PlayStation 5. Okay. Let's see what it looks like. It looks like a platformer where you're playing as kind of a computer program. I don't know how the hacking part of that really gets equated. If anything, it looks to me like you're just playing as a Tron-like computer program that is running around a computer world, and hacking is just being used as a buzzword more than anything else. Because real hacking would require, at least simulating real hacking would require to have some programs and running those programs. Or typing or dragging and dropping or doing something that feels like you're working on a computer and running a computer program. Next, we have a game on Steam called The Clay Game, which I don't know if this is just a weird looking game or if this is just an asset flip game. Let's see. It's called a puzzle platformer. It's free. And it's English only. And I kind of love the idea that this is free, because I don't really want to play this game. Yeah, I don't want to play this game, and so it's free. So if Clay Game looks interesting to you, check it out. But if it doesn't, that's fine also. Next, we have a game called Election Year Knockout, which looks like it's a political boxing game. But also, it looks like this game is fairly late to the party, because it seems like it's trying to make a punch-out game with a lot of characters that aren't even running in the US election anymore. Or very possibly that weren't running in the election at all. So this is $14.99 and it's English only. And I'm gonna say my electricity just spiked where the lights got brighter, and usually that's a good thing, that your power is nice and smooth, but that does also indicate to me that they're still working on the electricity in my area, so I may lose power at any point here. I'm gonna put the Election Year Knockout on the follow list, even though it probably is just a political troll game. So if I just drop out, that's just gonna be the end of the stream. Apologies that we didn't get many victories at all, 2 at most. I think 1. But the fact that you can spend 3 hours playing Magic Arena and only get 1 victory is a consistent problem. It was a major problem with Hearthstone. It's something that really needs to be adjusted. Either don't give us daily quests where you have to get victories. Instead, give us daily quests where you can just have to play a certain number of games. It would be so much nicer if I could just say, I need to play 30 games, and instead of just winning 15, because I definitely do play 30 games every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That is definitely doable, but the winning stuff needs to needs to stop being emphasized. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called the Otterman Empire, which I think is a player versus player fighting game in kind of a weird third person perspective. $22.49, bunch of languages. It says it has single player, but I don't see anything here that would justify that price, and I think that price just really eliminates it from consideration. See, clearly I don't have enough swamps if you can get this far into a game and not have enough swamps to play. Next we have a game on Steam called Fantasy General 2 Prologue, which is probably demo for Fantasy General 2, and it doesn't look like a particularly interesting game to me. Yeah, it is just a demo. See, Gamatsu has an article. Muv-Love Photon Melodies for PC launches July 30th. The final game promised to Kickstarter backers gets a release date. So, I guess this is the final game in this visual novel series. And I'll watch this video, but I'll not show it in case it's not YouTube family friendly. There is something weird, I would say, about trying to have a series of visual novels and kickstart it and hoping that that would actually work. Even if the visual novel games were based on like actual light novels or something that had already been written, I think the odds of success there are rather low. Right, so let's add another swamp, and let's take out something that we probably don't need. TechRaptor has an article. Horizon Zero Dawn PC release date is set in August. So, let's see. Will it be coming to the Epic Store or Steam? That's the real question. It'll come out on Steam and Epic Store on August 7th, priced at $49.99, and can be pre-ordered now. Okay. That's cool and all. I definitely would like to play Horizon Zero Dawn. I think playing Horizon Zero Dawn also opens up the door to say, let's not play something like the Far Cry series. And just say, well, we know the Far Cry series is out there, but since Horizon Zero Dawn is kind of a better, more streamlined experience of that, or close enough to a similar game, you could probably make that argument. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article. Forager will become Forager Evolved with the developer-supported mod pack. Okay. Never heard of this game before. It looks to me like it's a 8-bit graphics style game. Oh wait, yeah, I remember this game. It wasn't very interesting, though. I don't want to be flippant about it, but it was kind of a cross between Stardew Valley and Minecraft and a dungeon crawler. Next, we have a game on Steam called Big City Rigs Garbage Truck Driver, which looks like it's fairly low effort game where you drive a garbage truck. And it definitely is questionable, like, are there 6 or 7-year-olds, people who are obsessed with garbage trucks, or like autistic people? Is that audience big enough to justify making a game like this and putting it on Steam and selling it for $3.34? I would say probably not, because I feel like very little to no overlap as far as adult gamers or just an average gamer of any kind that would actually want to drive a garbage truck. The train simulator games already don't make much sense, but at least there is a history of older people having toy train models and sets and getting really deep into it and embracing that. I don't think garbage trucks are the same. There are adults who are obsessed with trains for sure, but let's put that on the field, and that on the field, and then next, and then attack. Then end the turn. And we also have Big City Rigs Bus Driver from what looks like the exact same company selling a bus driver game. $3.34 also. They don't even bother to bundle the two games together, which would be smart on their part to try to sell both. TechRaptor has the review for Last of Us Part 2. It will be interesting to see this image makes that look like a big monster, but it probably isn't, just regular sized monster. It'll be interesting to see what TechRaptor's take on it is. TechRaptor has had some new reviewers. They said it's a 9.0. The Last of Us Part 2 combines powerful storytelling with frantic gameplay and beautiful graphics. Turns out Part 2 was a good idea after all. Pros instantly captivating story, I've heard differently, with occasionally poor pacing and a little too long. I've heard it goes really, really long. Fantastic characters, I've heard the exact opposite, that while it might have good characters, you probably won't like or care about a lot of them. Fun combat, I've heard nobody say anything positive about the combat. No multiplayer is a con, which I would think that a lot of gamers would say that they in no way cared about Last of Us 2 having missing multiplayer. Last of Us 1 didn't have multiplayer as far as I recall. They said great enemy variety. I've heard there's basically 5 enemies and only one of them is like new from compared to the first game, and the film grain apparently is annoying. Puzzles are a nice distraction, and it's stunningly beautiful. So yeah, feels like Samuel Guillermo. I say him here, I imagine he's probably one of the TechRaptor writers I disagree with the most. But I should develop a better understanding of where they're coming from, and it's hard to do that when I'm not actually reading their reviews, for sure. But it does seem like, as far as TechRaptor's articles, that is the one I disagree with the most. Although a review of a game is almost an opinion in a lot of ways, so I can't severely discount their opinion. If that's how they felt about the game, that's how they felt about the game, and I'm not gonna particularly complain. Let's see. See, okay. Draw another card. Still not enough cards. Gamatsu has an article here. Little Town Hero is now available for the Xbox One. Game Freak released that game. It's also coming out on Steam, but it's been delayed to July. So we will get, hopefully, some reviews and feedback as far as this Game Freak made game, as to, is this where all of the quality development that probably should have been in the latest Pokemon games, is that where it went? And does that fix anybody's disappointment with the Pokemon games if it turns out that Game Freak has released a better game that's not bogged down by the long-running history of the Pokemon series? I can win here if I'm careful. And that's gonna be an F. Not a win. See, we have 6. We need 4 more. TechRaptor has an article. Fallout 76 Season 1 is launching badly. I don't understand the Season 1 idea, though. Like, when did they add seasons to Fallout 76? That's an interesting question. But yeah. It's kind of pointless that anybody is talking about Fallout 76 still. It shouldn't have been mentioned a while. It shouldn't have been mentioned after the first couple of weeks of Fallout 76 not being a very good game. GameSpot has this article. Breaking Bad's Giancarlo Esposito is working on a big video game that he can't tell you about, which kind of doesn't mean anything, but alright, so some famous actor is working on a big video game as probably a voice actor that also is getting his face scanned and head scanned, which probably means the performance won't be as good as you would like it to be, because that's usually what happens when they get real actors or TV or movie actors to do the job of video game voice actors, or so yeah. And as far as we know, he may just have a really small bit part in some game that doesn't really matter. Do it. Do it. Come on. 3. Got him. Took forever. And I think that'll be the end of this stream today. Yep. We got a whopping 2 victories, and I'm gonna have to go back and play this. We are getting gold, which is nice. Let's ask that question. Bundles. 25,000 gold. So we're past the halfway point, but frankly, as soon as we hit that halfway point, we need to buy the historic bundle 3. I think. Wait, did that actually tell us when that's going away? No, I thought it was saying a date there, but clearly it isn't. TechRaptor has an article here. Sony is thinking about buying Warframe owner Liu. Okay. We'll see what Sony does. It would be interesting to see if Sony did buy any companies, particularly if Sony of Japan bought any companies, because that would be this kind of new renewal of commitment or towards the video game industry in general, which I think Sony of Japan is losing their passion with that and doesn't really care anymore. Moving on, Gematsu has an article here for PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Made of Skur launches July 28th. Switch version is due out Q3 2020. Made of Skur looks like some kind of creepy horror game of some sort. Yeah, it's some kind of horror puzzle game by the looks of it. Next we have a game on Steam here called Vandozer, which looks like you build vehicles and then try to use it to adjust your way through areas using pistons. This feels like this would be really difficult to control. It's a car with 3 pistons, and then at some point you get this giant vehicle that just crushes it. Early access, $9.99, English only. I'll put it on the fall list. There might be some really well programmed gameplay in that, but there's also a high chance that there isn't. Ubisoft says they've opened an external investigation process for its employees and ex-employees. They've even put an 800 number here for you to call. So it does seem like they are outwardly looking, at least from an outward appearance, looking like they actually are trying to investigate these things. And it's be weird for them to come back and say they found nothing. It's also weird if they come back and they say they found everything. So there will probably just be some nuance in the middle there. And they probably won't say much of anything. They'll probably try to quietly fire everybody that was involved if they did something wrong, or if they were, even if they didn't do something wrong, they might try to quietly fire people involved. Both victims and victimizers. I wouldn't be surprised. That's what I would do if I was a boss and all these accusations happened to me. If I could get away with it, I'd just clear house. I'd try to get rid of almost everybody. Anyone that even for a second didn't seem like they were squeaky clean. In fact, I might just shut down the whole company and go out of business on accusations like that, and just get rid of everybody, lay off everybody, wait a couple of months and open a new company under a new name. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article planning a trip to Corine Cross Dead and Breakfast. which apparently this is a new game coming out. It has that MS Paint. No, I'd say this is more of a watercolor art style to it. Doesn't look terrible. It's an itch.io game. And here's a new Rydo image I don't recognize. It's fairly obvious to me that I do prefer video game reviews from YouTubers who just have like one person doing the reviews on their one website. That makes so much more sense to me than going to a video game journalist site and getting a mix of whoever works there. Speaking of video game journalist sites, apparently it's maybe like the 10th anniversary of Ryan Davis dying at Giant Bomb. And they were talking about him and mentioning him, which is odd because this is probably about 9 years since the last time they've ever mentioned Ryan, or they barely mention him. Like in a direct question, they might respond and mention him, but they definitely haven't been talking about him on even once a year for 10 years. Not that they really need to or should. They were just effectively co-workers. Maybe they considered themselves friends. Maybe he considered them friends. But they probably would just work friends. And in a tragedy scenario where somebody dies from sleep apnea and just being generally overweight, I imagine, it's not surprising that they would just move on with their lives and not mention him. So it then does become a little surprising to bring it up just because a potential anniversary is around, or just bring it up for no reason. There is still an argument in my head that Giant Bomb stopped being fun when Ryan Davis died, because he was the real leader that was actually corralling all of the other employees and making good, entertaining content. And once he was gone, Giant Bomb slowly began to change, and it has changed quite a lot since then. Moving on, Gematsu has an article, new test drive title to be announced at Nacon Connect. So that sounds like a racing game, if I was to guess. Although test drive does not ring a bell as far as racing games. Then that seems to bring me to the Humble Bundle store. So the Magic Arena Road to Rotation, let's see, was the thing we clicked on. They'll no longer be scheduling quick drafts or sealed events for sets rotating out of standard this fall. Quick draft and sealed events will use sets starting from Throne of Eldraine going forward. Players will no longer receive individual card rewards for sets that are rotating out of standards. And we'll get new player decks and boosters and wild card crafting. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there is anything new that we haven't already heard from this announcement, this renewal season announcement. It would be nice if Magic would move a little bit faster to give everybody some good news. Alright, so if I look at the Humble Bundles, what do we have that might be new? Well, there's a Nacon game bundle. Interesting. Which is Outcast, Too Dark, Arclash Legacy. This feels like this is a bundle we've already seen. Yeah, there's nothing interesting there. Excuse Excuse me. So since it's a Friday, there's probably a high chance that there's nothing new that was announced. Particularly since the 4th of July weekend is happening in the United States, and I guess it's 4th of July everywhere. But it's basically a four-day weekend. No Clip is going to have a short talk, an interview short with Pseudo51, which is always an interesting and probably weird experience, I would imagine. Let's see, Paradox Interactive acquires the Airlines Manager developer. Never heard of a game called Airlines Manager. That feels like a game where you're doing someone's job, and not particularly even a fun job. And let's see, scroll down. Yeah, I'm probably not going to see anything new. And yeah, we're in this weird position where, yeah, Borderlands 3 put out an all platforms shift key. Interesting. So no longer just shift keys that only work in one place. Finally, they've got their servers working the way they should. Yeah. Yeah, there's no more announcements. So I'm in this weird position where now I have to spend some extra time doing some programming if I want to, playing 7 billion humans. I also have to spend extra time trying to get 13 victories plus the Friday Night Magic extra victory. So I'm just swamped with extra homework, as it were, just because I was not successful at all today as far as actually playing Magic. Well, anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching.